morning. My name is David from 52 Churches in 52 Weeks, bringing you week 4 of a different type of church experience. Today we are in downtown Chicago, as evident with the Cloud Gate, Silver Bean, what have you, in the background here. So I'm going to be showing you a little bit of downtown Chicago, and we're going to be checking out Soul City Church. I mentioned in previous videos, I was going to start off small through a random series of events. I'm in Chicago today. With Soul City Church, I have no idea what to expect. I just heard it's one of the more up-and-coming type of churches in Chicago. I don't know if it's true. I'm just getting word of mouth on that. So stay tuned for that, and let's check it out.
Did you hear about that guy who invented the zero?
I did.
Thanks for nothing. Come on. Guys, that crushes. That crushes. Why are you guys not laughing? Okay, did you guys know that dogs cannot operate MRI machines, but in fact cats can? You guys don't know what to do. You can laugh. These are hilarious.
Keep me close to you. Let's make this our prayer this morning. Keep me close to you. Closer than a shadow. Never let me go. Keep me close to you.
Does God really care where I live? Does God really care where I live? Does God really care where you live? You know, we're in that season of graduations and weddings, and maybe you find yourself considering a career change, or a move to a new place, or a next step in a relationship. As Dr. Seuss wrote in The Places You'll Go, you have brains in your head, you have feet in your shoes. You can steer yourself any direction you choose. Oh, the places you'll go, except when you don't, because sometimes you won't. Thinking about alternative paths can sometimes stress us out, doesn't it? I mean, we may wonder, I do sometimes, if our lives would be massively more wonderful if we had stuck with that boyfriend or girlfriend, if we'd chosen a different career path or lived in a different city. And for those of us who follow Jesus, it's scary to think that maybe all along, God has a map for our lives, and we just can't seem to find it or follow it. What if we miss it? God guided the Apostle Paul to all kinds of cities, and yet there were some he told him not to go to. So there are times when the answer to the question, does God really care where I live, is a great big yes. However, and this may shock you, I think more times than not, God doesn't care all that much where you and I choose to live. At least not in comparison to how much God cares about who we are becoming. or where I said God is primarily in the character-forming business, not the circumstance-shaping business. God's will for my life is centered mainly, and the greatest news I can tell you today about place is that no matter where we are, God is there with us, right? No matter where we are, we can't hide from Him. So whether you're in Decatur or the Dominican Republic, or Minneapolis or Mexico, or California or Colombia, God is there with you. And I was thinking this morning that it's not only about this earthly place, is it? It's not only about the place we live here. Yes, He's with us here. But He knew that His followers were going to be disturbed when He left them. So shortly before He left, He said to them, don't let your hearts be troubled. I am going to prepare a place for you. In my Father's house are many mansions. I'm going to prepare a place. And you and I will be together forever. And when I look at the beauty of this earth, my mind cannot possibly imagine a heavenly place that Jesus would prepare. He's preparing a place for you and me. And when we get there, whatever place we've been on earth won't matter much. We're going to be home.
Lord, you know my heart. Oh God, you hold it all. You see my every thought. When I rise and when I fall, you hear my midnight cry. You're with me in my fear. Why would I ever doubt when my God, you're so near. My God, you're right here. For God has overcome the world. I'll fix my eyes. I'll trust in you are good.
We're back. So got back from Soul City Church yesterday, and really great worship service. This was in the heart of downtown Chicago. So when it came to first impressions of this church, much different than what I'm typically used to in more kind of like small town churches that I've gone to in the past. When I got there, first time this has ever happened to me, I walked in and the way I got greeted was a gentleman just took a snapshot of me and said hi. So I guess anyone that walked through the door got their picture taken. Upstairs, now throughout their main level, they had tons of different kind of like really trendy decor, different type of rooms. There was like a little basketball hoop for kids that were coming in. A lot of creativity was inside there. Upstairs was the auditorium. You walk into the, which would be the worship area. And again, you just saw so much diversity at this particular church, and it was celebrated. And that's not just something that I see everywhere. I think the only other church I've been to that had this much diversity was probably New York City. So downtown Chicago, you're going to see that. And it was really great to just be a part of that. Service started with the typical modern contemporary worship music. There were two lead singers that were both the worship pastors. The one guy was kind of dressed like this, just wearing some plaid, trucker hat. And then the other gal, she was much more of the free-spirited, kind of hip-hoppy, let's get this party started kind of gal. And they really worked out really well together to get the congregation going. Well, maybe not congregation is a word for the more modern churches, but the funny thing is, like, after the first song, the guy tried to tell a couple dad jokes, just get some laughter going in there, just to be a little bit more relatable. So I kind of like that. One thing that I thought was interesting was how they did communion. So I've been to a lot of modern churches where they give you the plastic cup with a little peel of a little wafer inside. It's all mass manufactured. I mentioned this in other videos. I just hate that. Here, it wasn't a huge congregation, but what they did is they kind of came around with like a, kind of like a cheese board, meat board kind of thing like that. And they had one where you had the little cups with the wine in it, and then you also had another one where they had like little bread pieces. So it wasn't mass manufactured. You didn't have to peel anything. You had it right there. And the pastor, I've never heard this before, to end communion, he's just like, yeah, that was his psalm. And that got some laughter from everyone in the auditorium. The sermon was, and I've never heard a sermon like this before. It was actually from a female pastor that had just become a grandmother. So kind of playing more into that diversity. And the sermon of the theme of the sermon series that they're doing right now, it's does God really care? And this one was, does God really care about where I live? And this one really hit home for me because, like I mentioned in the very first video that I've been doing with this new 52 churches in 52 weeks, I'm recalibrating. I'm trying to figure out where to head in my own life. And especially with where, I think I'm going to be relocating. Now I'm not, but do I still want to relocate somewhere else? I'm kind of juggling right now. Especially with different job opportunities and whatnot. So what the pastor kind of mentioned is, she had just seen a movie. It was called Everything Everywhere All at Once. And it was a strange movie to her. But what she appreciated about it was the creativity of this multiverse, alternate paths that one person could take. So I guess the main character, you just have a couple variables that change. Like what happens if he had a different job? What happens if he had a different spouse? What happened if he lived in a different city? And we're all kind of faced with that with ourselves. Like what happens, should I take the next step in a relationship? Should I not? Should I take this new job opportunity, or should I stay where I'm at? Should I move to a different city, be closer to relatives, or should I, kind of expand a little bit, try something new, make it out on my own? And, in my own personal life, yeah, that's something that was really speaking to me today. One thing that I thought was interesting that she also kind of mentioned was, we all have these kind of forks in the road for us. And she kind of started quoting Dr. Seuss. And I'll see if I can add it here. And she kind of related, making this more biblical. And this was the second, I've been to 4 churches so far for 52 churches in 52 weeks. And this is already the second time I've gotten the Ruth Naomi story. But compared to week 2, this one was a little bit different because here she's kind of talking about Ruth and Orpah. And they both kind of come to their own fork in the road. Naomi is telling them to go back where they came from. Orpah is finally convinced to go back, back to her original home, while Ruth choose the other path. And as we all know, Naomi basically gives Ruth dating advice with Boaz, and as we later learn, Ruth basically becomes the great 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 grandmother to Jesus through the line of David, and she had like a little bit of Moabite inside of her. So, so I guess the real big question that the pastor was asking is, okay, does God care where we live? And when you look in the Bible, God is kind of directing Abraham, unspecific about some type of promised land. Same thing with Moses. You also had Jonah. He didn't want to go to Nineveh. And she kind of played a real fun John Ortig, all the places we go type of quote to kind of describe Jonah.
I would not go there in a boat. I would not go there in a boat. I would not go there in a gale. I would not go there in a whale. I do not like the people there. If they all died, I would not care. I will not go to that great town. I'd rather choke. I'd rather drown. I will not go by land or sea, so stop this talk and let me eat.
And then, of course, you have Paul, when it came to all the kind of different churches that he was going to, and there would be some times where he kind of had that divine intervention on places not to go. So, does God really care about where we live? Her answer was basically, it's not necessarily the physical location, right? It's more about the character that God is placing inside of you, what's living inside of you. And I think she mentioned how she quoted an author, I can't remember his name, but we kind of live in this wanderlust society. And this is kind of a new social experiment that we're kind of going through right now, especially with the pandemic. In Chicago, in big cities especially, a lot of people are leaving these big cities. And what we're seeing right now with this wanderlust society is we're always looking for, the grass being greener. We're always looking for the next best thing. When it comes to relationships, do you take the next step? With a job opportunity, do you go further? Do you take that job? Put your resume on LinkedIn and see what else you can do to make a little bit more money. And this is all new because previously, we've usually had like this stability when it came to certain people. Like she mentioned, like Mother Teresa, it was Teresa of Calcutta. When it came to St. Francis, it was St. Francis of Assisi. When it comes to Jesus, he was Jesus of Nazareth. And right now, we don't technically have people that are digging roots into the ground to really solidify where we want to be placement-wise. And I guess you can attribute some of that to globalization. You can attribute that a lot to the advances in technology, whatever. But I guess the question is, what is your home? And I think, wherever that we are, whether we move to here or there, the most important thing is that God lives inside you, that God is part of you wherever that you do go. And she kind of finished off her sermon a little bit with how one of the last things that Jesus spoke about to the disciples is he talked about place. And, he mentioned that, I'm going to prepare a place for you. Where I am, you also will be. So, really powerful sermon, I thought. And after that, worship team got back up on stage. The lights had this really amazing type of purple Prince-like color to it. And they sang a song. I couldn't really do much. I think it was Lauren Daigle. I'm not sure on that. But the refrain that they kept going over and over was, "I'll fix my eyes on you. I trust that you are good. And really solid, powerful, really powerful type of music to end the service. So yeah, Soul City Church, really enjoyed it. Diversity was huge. Music great. Sermon was very powerful. Really made you think, and especially in downtown Chicago, you have so much going on when it comes to taxes, racism, inflation, everything that's going on. And I think she did a great job preaching to that particular city and the people that live inside of it. So that's the end of week 4. Next week, it will be week 5. Not sure where I'm going yet. That's kind of the fun of this, because I don't have any roots. I don't have any roots I can really plant down in. So we'll see where God leads me next week. If you like what you watched, hit like and subscribe if you like to continue on this journey. If you want to read about the first 52 churches in 52 weeks, check it out on Amazon. We got it in paperback, hardcover, and it's free if you have a Kindle Unlimited subscription. So thanks for watching, and hope you have a good one.
God's eyes, trusting you.